welcome to AutoSave. My name is Nick Andrade, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host Camille Salazar-Hadaway. Cam, how you doing this week? How's everything going?
I am doing well. I thought we were done with the bad weather, but it is snowing. Surprise, surprise.
Do you think it's Fimbulwinter right now?
I honestly think it is the events of us playing through God of War, Ragnarok, that is influencing the seasons to just stay in winter.
One of us is the god of mischief. Which one is it?
Definitely you.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Hey, you didn't deny it.
I didn't.
You
I
didn't
laughed.
deny it.
I cackled is what I did. But maybe, again, if I am the trickster god, Loki himself, maybe I'm causing Fimbulwinter. Because we're doing our thing. We're going through God of War Ragnarok. And this has been an incredible journey so far in our last week's episode.
I suppose this is the point where I forgive you, or I kill you.
Have you decided?
To be honest, I don't think I can do either. There's still a part of me that is so angry. And it'll always be. It'll always be angry. But no. You are not the one who needs to die.
Kratos helped Freya find her freedom in Vanaheim, broke Odin's curse so that she can finally travel all the realms and not stay stuck in Midgard. We learned more about her backstory, and she decided to finally back down from wanting to kill Kratos. Not because she still doesn't want to. She mentioned that she does, but she has a vision of stopping Odin, and it aligns with what Kratos wants to do, and she wants to take Odin down. So she's ready to create an alliance with Kratos. Technically, he's forgiven, but it's not forgotten, right, Cam?
Exactly. She may kill him anytime. Guess what?
Ugh.
I don't trust her.
Listen, trust, no trust, whatever it is. Like, as long as we don't have to hear, like in that last episode, every time Freya complained, every time Kratos would tell a story and she'd be like, no, stop it. No, don't. I don't want to hear it, Kratos. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Exactly. She was pretty much acting like how we are, like when we were younger and kids and upset at our parents, and we try to give them the silent treatment, but because they are our parents, we have to respond to them. So we just be really short with our responses or like try to cut them off. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you done that before?
I have, but I think it's pretty rude that she would say, okay, Kratos, you can tell me a story. And then Kratos would tell her a story. And then she'd be like, no. I don't like where this is going.
Oh, that's true.
Why'd you ask for him to tell the story?
Yeah.
So again, maybe, I know, Cam, you have a theme of not liking children in these episodes. You always think they're bratty and annoying. And Freya right now kind of counts towards that.
She's not a child, though. She's a grown woman. But I guess even adults could act like children sometimes. So,
Well, again, we shouldn't make fun of her too hard because her son did get murdered by Kratos.
Oh, yes. I
we
forgot about that.
forgot that
Yes,
little tidbit.
we did kill her son. So, I mean, maybe she does. Maybe that's her revenge plan, just to annoy the heck out of Kratos by acting like a spoiled child.
It reminds me of those, maybe from movies or whatever, where someone says, I'm not going to punch you right now, but I'm going to punch you at some point. And you're always going to have to look over your shoulder because it could happen at any moment. I feel like that's what's kind of hanging over Kratos' head. But to be fair, he probably would be ready for anything.
Well, I mean, he is the god of war.
Yes, that is true. We also met her brother Freyr and his band of misfits, went back to Sindri's, and Atreus was ready to pick a fight with Kratos, and that landed him back in Midgard away from his father. And that's where we start today's episode with Chapter 7, The Runaway, and Chapter 8, Into the Fire. So this episode will revolve around Atreus again. We get to play as him once again. This time I'm leading this episode. But Cam, how do you feel playing as Atreus once again? It looks like we're going to have more and more of these quests with a different character.
I thought maybe it would have been a one-off, but it's great that we're going back and revisiting Atreus, and especially because he hopefully has grown a little bit since last time we played as him with Angrboda and him being in Ironwood. That kind of went over my heart. So I'm curious if that growth will still make me feel like he is not annoying. But he did kind of storm off, which was kind of annoying. So, And I'm also interested to hear your perspective, you leading this episode, and like seeing if you take us on a nicer journey with Atreus. I think I was pretty nice in the last episode with Atreus.
I think you've been relatively more appreciative of him and maybe, younger characters in general.
Exactly. I don't hate all kids. Just want to clarify.
That's good to know. So Atreus was transported to a realm he didn't choose. He just ended up in Midgard when he transformed as a bear and kind of knocked over the portal. So it made me think of the question of the day. Cam, if you could transport yourself to any video game land, what would it be? I feel like I know some of these answers. Hyrule. But let me know what you think.
Hyrule. Specifically, I would probably go to the Gerudo Desert. I know it's in a game and they're not blasting the Gerudo soundtrack as you're walking through the desert. But I mean, hey, I would transport there in hopes that they would. Just that music kills it every single time. So imagine just going on your merry way, walking to the shop, seeing your friends, and you're just hearing that do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. So I think that'd be cool.
So you would like to live in a desert for forever, for eternity?
Well, yeah, but I'm assuming me transporting there, I'd be good, wouldn't I? No?
That's true.
No?
I didn't put any rules on this specifically.
Okay, well, I'm going to add the rule of we have all the equipment we need to survive and have fun. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Also, Zora's Domain. I just remember playing through Ocarina of Time as a kid and wanting to, swim and have fins the Zoras. Because it's they have it's pretty much going to a water park, and living there all the time. You're sliding through to the main area. I don't know. And the music rocks there too. So the land of Hyrule, anywhere that has good music. Yeah.
If the music was blasting at all times, when you get sick of the music?
I have a very high tolerance. I am the type of person that could play one song over and over again for a month and never get tired of it.
For eternity.
Eternity, yeah.
Because that's a way of torture in a lot of places.
Okay.
So you'd be good with it.
No, I'm going to stick to my guns. Yeah, I'm down. Sure.
Okay, so
let's do it.
Music involved, which I didn't add in this question, but you bring up a good point. If there's music in these places, you probably hear the music.
Yeah. Ooh, I do
Yes, you
have to add
one.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel just going into the Mushroom Kingdom, it'd be cool. You know what I mean? You could get these little feathers and fly all over the place. You would have to be careful because everything's trying to kill you, but I think it'd be cool. Also, good music. You unlock Yoshi, the music changes. So you're not... See, yeah. Okay, actually, the Mushroom Kingdom, because everything you interact with, the music changes accordingly to certain items, right?
Right.
So then you wouldn't be stuck with the same song for eternity.
Also, we don't have to have the songs. If it's a real life place, let's say, it doesn't have to have the music. Because imagine we had a soundtrack everywhere we went. Every zone specifically we went to when we zoned into another land or whatever it is.
That's true.
And new music came or didn't come, whatever. If it's a real life, maybe that doesn't happen per se. But the music is the part of the reason why we want to choose these things.
Exactly. I'm curious for you.
So mine's very niche because I spent, especially in Final Fantasy XI MMO, I spent a good part of 10 years playing that game or maybe 8 years. 8 years, 10 years, I don't know, whatever it is. And the Grand Duchy of Juno, if you know, you know. That's where everyone hung out. That was like the main spot for everybody to chill out when they weren't like going on raids or going to dungeons or whatever. That was the spot to like get party invites and stuff like that. And all the auction houses were there, and the music was bussin'. That music was the best. And I wish I could play, because that game specifically, music was incredible. And I wish I could play that game because the nostalgia would hit me so hard. And if I was in that city of Juno, I probably would be the happiest man in the world.
Oh, that sounds really fun, actually, because you're interacting with other people that's coming through the city.
Yes.
Like you said, the music. Mm-hmm. But then you're pretty much saying you don't want to go on any of the adventures. You just want to stick in the lobby forever.
Yeah, because I'll just be rich. Just have a bunch of gil. And I'll just live there. It's a very fancy city. Okay, I'll tell you that much.
That's pretty much like early retirement. I can't be mad at it.
Thank you. That's the plan. I'm going to retire in the Grand Duchy. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty here, the most important thing of this episode, which is God of War Ragnarok. After the break, it's time to deal with whatever's going on with Atreus. Hopefully, he can figure it out while he's in Midgard. So we are in the Atreus attitude era, because when he gets into Midgard, he basically beats up on a bunch of Hellwalkers, and he's talking to himself out loud, venting his frustrations, Gab. He's frustrated with his dad because he thinks he's trying to make the right decisions of trying to save Kratos' life. After he saw the prophecy, he's trying to make decisions that maybe better the two of them, but he's frustrated, and he keeps basically yelling to himself about what to do, and he's contemplating, going to see Odin or not. He doesn't really know what to do. So it's probably not a good idea for Atreus to go to Asgard, right? Cam, what do you think?
Avi, no, but I mean, like, this is where I can understand, even though Atreus is being super annoying right now, I could understand where he's coming from. He has all these thoughts in his head. He doesn't really have anyone to talk to because he can't really tell anyone about Ironwood. And he's holding this realization of the prophecy of his demise close to him, right? Because he wants to be the hero. And he doesn't yet recognize he can't be the hero. He needs the people around him to kind of help him through this journey, right? You can't solve it all by yourself. So I understand what he's talking about. One thing that was really interesting to me with this is just like all these Hellwalkers, like, dang.
There's a lot.
They really are staking out the house. They're just in there and they're just like, yeah, okay, well, we'll just wait here forever. I guess they don't get cold because they're Hellwalkers, but it still is interesting to see that Odin is having all his minions surround the house and the effects of Fimbulwinter because it's worse.
And I thought too, like, Odin wasn't going to give them a hard time. And we really haven't seen much of him since the beginning. But it looks like he basically has set up camp to try to stop whatever happening if someone comes into Midgard, which is interesting.
I mean, yeah, it is interesting to see that. And I guess that's what he would do as a god. Like he is all knowing, but it does also seem like a waste of resources because he's all knowing. Like he would know when they're going back home, wouldn't he? Like,
right.
I don't know.
But we haven't heard anything from him so far. So we don't even know if he has any idea about what their plans are at this moment. Because, again, I'm surprised. I thought we would have to deal with him already. But it's kind of like in the first game where we see Baldur, a couple times? And kind of like go through the entire game. And it's kind of the presence is there, but not necessarily the actual character. We stumble upon Freya's house, something that we haven't seen for a while.
Charlie! Please. Please! Charlie! Hey, big guy. I'm here now. Don't you worry. I need to get you warm. You're gonna have to stand to let me into that house. Think you can do that? Come on, Charlie. You have to do this. I can't help if you don't. Emily! Emily! Good boy. What a mess.
All right, so everyone seems to have forgotten about Charlie. Freya just, I guess, let him freeze to death.
I forgot about Charlie. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my God, you forgot. So did I. Actually, you know what? I'll be honest. So did I.
I was like, in this moment, I was like, how dare Freya? Wait, Charlie. Like it went through my mind because, yeah, all of these creatures, all of these things that would just usually be, just a building.
Mhm.
They sometimes are creatures, and that's Charlie, the loyal house of Freya. Oh my God, I feel so bad. Poor Charlie.
I'll be honest too. Completely forgot its name. I didn't even know its name was like Charlie. I thought it was like Gustavo or something. I had no idea what the turtle's name was. So I feel even more bad because again, he's freezing to death.
He is freezing to death, and also like Charlie. Freya tried to make him people by giving him like a human name like Charlie.
Yeah, I know. It's just spelled
And
different.
we forgot about the poor guy. No.
You know what? It's not we, okay? Freya has been too busy trying to hunt us down that she forgot about him. Okay, so it's her fault.
Yeah, see, this is why I don't trust her. But it also shows we hear these stories about Odin, how selfish he is. He only thinks about himself. And
Yeah.
look at how revenge and like this mourning process put Freya in like this kind of light, like Odin, forgetting about creatures near and dear to her home, just leaving it abandoned while Charlie's just waiting there for Freya to return. This is so sad. Cue like Sarah McLachlan music. This is the saddest thing ever.
Yeah, it's like a dog just waiting for the owner that never comes home, right?
Yes. So sad. And all really she had to do is just keep the doors closed and have a little fire to keep Charlie warm.
That's all you had to do. Just keep an everlasting fire or something like that.
Yeah.
That's all.
I don't even think she mentions Charlie at all when we're with
No.
her on
No.
the last
Which
mission.
kind of makes her a little bit of a hypocrite,
Yep.
That's just saying. Sorry, Freya. But, you got to figure it out.
# save Charlie.
# save Charlie. But all good. You know why? Because Atreus starts a fire to warm the turtle up, and he thinks quietly to himself until he hears a little tap on the window.
Where do I go now? I can't stay. I just can't let my dad die too. There's gotta be something I can do. It's okay, buddy. I think he's here for me. I'll be okay. I think. Okay. I'm ready. Take me to him.
So what made Atreus make that decision so quickly? He was going back and forth in his head, but then in silence just randomly decided it's best to go to Asgard to see Odin as soon as he sees Hugin in the window.
I think it's a way out, right? Like he is here with Charlie, doesn't really know what's next, just kind of contemplating, like, where do you start? Especially as, a kid, like, where do you start to think of what to do next? You're so upset. And you don't even know how to find your way back to the ones that care about you. And even if you do, you still feel like that you may not be able to save and keep the ones that care about you safe. I think he kind of made up his decision a while ago that he was going to go to Asgard when we heard him talking about it at the beginning of this chapter. And I think he just saw that it was the path of less resistance and kind of looked at it as an opportunity. Which also has me kind of like, was Odin watching this whole time?
That's a great point because Hugin is at the window.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Well, he's an all-knowing being, I'm guessing, right? So I feel like he maybe knows what's going on, especially Midgard, as soon as he traveled over and all the Hellwalkers were there. But you bring up a good point in terms of the path least resisted, but I only think he's going against his father's wishes because that's the number one thing he didn't want to happen. So Hugin takes him through this really cool scene of ravens teleporting Atreus to what I guess seems to be water and this washed up shore. It's not exactly Asgard, but they move closer to this giant rock wall. But Cam, how cool is kind of this raven teleportation spinning move? I don't even know how to call it, what to call it.
Raven spinning teleportation. I love it. No, it looks so cool.
We're always so bad at titling things. I don't know, or explaining what they are.
We are. And it's just great how you're instantly it's kind of like a blackout and then it's you're where you are. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that feels though. Does Atreus feel the wind of him being transported? All this godly magic has me curious.
Is it like a apparition in Harry Potter, or is it some sort of teleportation in Star Trek? I just don't know what the extent of these powers are that these gods have.
I wonder if he gets a bunch of feathers on him as well, Atreus, in terms of all these ravens just circling him, or do they peck at him? I didn't see any peck at him and try to attack him, but no. Ravens are pretty scary creatures. They're huge. They're ginormous.
Yeah, they're all I guess, Odin owns them all, so that's why they're probably well behaved. But Hugin looks like a badass. He's got these red eyes or blue eyes. There's Hugin and Mugen, and one of them has red eyes, one of them has blue eyes. But they look so badass, and they're super tanks.
They make for really good sidekicks, honestly.
Oh, I would love to have two birds on my shoulders at all times, and then get people to attack, attack, and then they start pecking people. I would love that. He also mentions, Atreus, that there isn't a trace of Fimbulwinter here. So it looks like Asgard so far has been protected from the effects of Fimbulwinter / Ragnarok. As he gets closer to the wall, he notices there are regular town folk, the people of Midgard, and they're setting up camp all around.
You need help? You look a little lost.
Oh, I'm just getting my bearings.
Well, there's nothing to see this way except the big wall.
Is there a gate to go through?
Nope. Not unless you're an Aesir god, but I guess you'd know that if you were an Aesir god.
Me? No. I'm from Midgard.
What? No shit. Me too. I'm skilled here.
Lucky. Hang on. Are you all from Midgard?
Yep. The, Allfather saved us from the desolation. Gave us a safe place to settle, but we don't go in there. Can't get into the city unless you know magic. You don't know magic, do you?
A little bit, yeah.
What? No shit. You walk through walls?
Not yet.
Huh.
Couldn't I just climb over it?
That? Without any gear? No. Aren't you afraid of dying?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at that. But Odin awaits.
So we meet Skolder. It seems that Odin has saved a bunch of these Midgardian people from the perils of Midgard and the everlong winter. So maybe, just maybe, Odin's not that bad. However, this kid seems to be obsessed with Odin. And he also kind of doesn't look like a child. He looks like he's 34. I gave you a loaded question there.
Oh my gosh. He doesn't look like
he definitely looks like he's 34. He could pass for 12 or 44. Okay.
You weren't he looks kind of older. You were specifically 34.
Yes,
he looks 34.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Because he's been through stuff, Nick, all right? He's been trying to escape Fimbulwinter with his family. The stress has aged him. Oh my goodness, it's hilarious. I hate, though, and I'm sorry, this is where Atreus annoys me. I hate when he gets all like braggy. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. But I guess like, kids do that. He's very like proud of himself in this moment. Yeah, like I'm kind of his apprentice. You're not kind of his apprentice. You haven't even apprenticed anything of Odin yet. Oh, it's so annoying.
Yeah. It also makes me realize too that there's actual humans in this story. It's not just all gods. Which is do you remember
Yes.
apart from like the first humans we saw in the first game, have you seen any other humans?
No, having to think about it. They've all been people of the realm.
Well, thank God, because we won't have to see 34-year-old Skolder all this time ago.
Fun fact, humans age faster than gods, so maybe that's why. He just looks like a
Exactly.
12-year-old human who looks like 34 because he's a human, Nick. Gosh. But yeah, I think this is also why he's obsessed with Odin, right? When you're going through a hard time, a lot of people look through to their faith for that, kind of looking for a solution, looking for comfort. So it makes sense that humans are looking to Odin to help save them. And especially because it looks like he has given them a haven from Fimbulwinter. I mean, I kind of would be very in awe of him too and want to know everything.
Although, again, it's Odin. I feel like even though he's helping these people, there's a reason. It seems to be like, and that's everything that we've learned of him through Freya and Mimir and Tyr, that, it seems like he's always good, but that's not necessarily true because it's always for wanting something. So I'm a little weary if this is the case.
Well, I mean, so there's this anime that I've watched called Noragami, and it's about like different gods. And the point is they need followers in order to qualify as a god, right? Like, how can you be a god and no one follows you? I think that's kind of similar here to what Odin's doing. Like, it is in his best interest to help humans, especially while they're going through like this Fimbulwinter time, what may seem like an apocalypse to some people, because he does need followers. He needs people to worship him. It needs to validate him as a god. So I think, it's kind of selfish.
Cam, you brought the fire right there, especially in terms of like a god needing to have followers or like adoration and love from their people. So that makes a great point as to why Odin would do that. Well, it's time to climb with Atreus, and he has to scale the mountain. And it, to me, it seems like if Odin wanted Atreus to get to Asgard, he would have done a better job of getting him there. Although I think it's probably a test, right?
100% a test. Or someone's trying to kill him. The whole time I was climbing this, I was just like, oh man, like this is way too hard. If like, the Ravens have sent us here, why would they drop me off at the bottom of this huge cliff and make me climb it unless I'm walking right into a trap?
Ooh, I didn't even suspect a trap. I thought this was just a test, but it could definitely be like maybe he wants Atreus dead by the time he climbs the mountain, right? Because there's a heck of a lot of enemies, not just at the beginning of Atreus' time in Midgard, but then once he gets to Asgard and once we do the climb, there's a bunch of enemies we have to face. Like this is no longer, the Kratos show. We have to literally fight so many enemies as Atreus.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like if Odin had his Hellwalkers around Atreus' home, and we assume that's how he knew to send the Ravens to get Atreus, it's like, then why would you have them drop him off at the bottom of this cliff if he's really your apprentice?
Yeah.
If you really want him to learn. So I had my guard up this whole time. I was also really tired of climbing. I'm like, because I wouldn't look down, and you're talking to Skodr at the beginning of it, and you're just like, he gets quieter and quieter. And then it's like, I have no idea what happened to him. Like you look down and it's crazy that this kid is climbing this huge cliff, which shows that he literally has no fear. If there's anything I could think of Kratos is that he doesn't fear anything. And I think that's one attribute that Atreus has took from him.
That's so true. What a badass Atreus is. Like he's not afraid at all of scaling this mountain. And I think, again, like you said, it's a testament to what Kratos has trained him to do. Well, once you scale the mountain completely...
Hello.
Hi.
So, what part of the enormous wall made you think, oh, visitors must be welcome?
I was sent for, actually. By Odin?
The Allfather sent for you. Ha! Great. Then why are you out there? And not in here?
Why don't we ask him together? Ah!
Are you finished? Now, what could Odin, Allfather, King of the Aesir, possibly want with the likes of you?
That's between me and Odin.
You don't even know, do you?
Think you could pull me up, or...
No, I don't think I will. I think maybe I'll drop you.
No.
Yes, I'm going to drop you. Goodbye.
Wait. Think how mad the Allfather's gonna be when he finds out you killed his guest. Loki of the Jotnar?
So a very tense scene here with Atreus hanging off a cliff with Heimdall as his only protection from falling, but it looks like Heimdall wants him dead, and it takes a lot of persuading for Heimdall to finally decide to pull Atreus up. So Cam, what are your first impressions here of Heimdall from this scene? Because it doesn't feel like it's someone you want to mess with. He seems pretty scary.
I am so sorry, but is it just me?
Yeah.
Or does Heimdall give off some big Prince Charmings in the bad way from Shrek vibes?
Oh, that's a great point. Yes, 1000%, especially the hair, the slick backed hair.
He is such a just you could tell he really cares about his looks and cares about moisturizing his face. But then he is such a jerk as well.
Yes.
That it was so hard for me to take him seriously because all I kept seeing is Prince Charming from Shrek. And I'm like, oh, already I want to punch him in his face.
The thing too is the only Heimdall I know is Idris Elba from the Thor movies. And he's like a hero. And he tries to help Thor, and he's like a nice guy. So to go from that to a contrast of this man right here, who is literally a dick in all sense of the words, Heimdall, it's such a different character altogether. And it took me aback because I thought, okay, who's this guy? Oh, it's Heimdall. Oh my God, he literally is a complete asshole.
He is a horrible person. And then I just picture him too, he's just lying there, watching Atreus, struggling for dear life. And he's just kind of hanging him there, oh, I'll play with my food a little bit before I finally kill him. You know, he is kind of the epitome of all the negative things that we hear from gods, or that, that perception that gods are so selfish. He embodies all of that.
Listen to this from Heimdall as well, because it seems like he can already read Atreus and who he is.
Next question.
What is your job?
I protect the realm I love from trouble.
And you think I'm trouble? You just met me.
And I can already see you are eager to prove yourself. Way too eager. Probably due to an overshadowing father figure you can never live up to.
Good guess.
I would also guess that you are disrespectful, entitled, and impulsive.
You don't know me at all. I help people.
Oh, you are here to help people. No. You are here to help yourself. To manipulate and lie to whoever you have to get what you want. I know you're young, your voice probably dropped while you were climbing the wall, but what a twisted little soul you have. You are chaos in a spiffy archer suit. I watch your mouth move and I see cities burning.
So all I could think here when I listened to this scene was Cam in my ear, how much she enjoyed this scene 1000% because Heimdall says everything that I think, for the most part, I know you're getting comfortable with Atreus and how he is, but to me it seemed like this is everything you thought of who Atreus was in your eyes, because Heimdall kind of reads him as this selfish little child.
Yes and no. Okay, because yes, he can be annoying. It's like, oh, just get over yourself. You're still a kid. You don't know everything. Stop trying to be the hero kind of thing. But I understand why he's trying to, Heimdall says selfish, but I understand he's trying to be the hero. Which is selfish because he's trying to save his dad, right? So kind of, I think what Heimdall is more alluding to here is that popular definition of who we think Loki is, like the god of mischief, chaos, like all of that. I think he's describing the god that is Loki, not necessarily Atreus, if that makes sense.
It does. However, I think that Heimdall might be a little bit right in terms of, as much as I want to believe that Atreus, like, again, he wants to be the hero, but I think he's reckless. And I think that's a spot on point to say, like, when I look at you, I see cities burn. And not necessarily that he, maybe Atreus wants that to happen. Obviously, he's a good kid and he has a lot of empathy. But at the same time, I think because of how reckless he is, it causes other people pain, and then it also causes cities to eventually burn. So I don't think he's necessarily wrong with that because of how reckless Atreus is.
Yeah, I could see that. And that's kind of what Kratos has been warning Atreus of this whole time. Like when he was seeking Tyr, like, there are consequences for every action. And yeah, I guess Atreus has still not seen those consequences yet, or at least to the scale that makes it click for him that he has a lot more growing up to do.
So Heimdall takes us to the Great Lodge to see Odin, but that doesn't last long because once we get there, Heimdall sends the Einherjar after Atreus because he thinks Atreus has treacherous intent and doesn't want him to get anywhere near the Allfather, which kind of makes sense. He's, a random stranger who just came up the wall. Once we get through the Einherjar there, we face off against Heimdall, but it's not really a fight at all because Heimdall can predict moves before you make them. Because he can basically read people so well. That's why we kind of get an introduction to Heimdall in terms of him reading Atreus and reading his body language. It's the same thing here where if we try to fight him, he can predict all his moves because he's reading us so well. I think that's such a crazy trait of a god to have.
It's like pretty much that you could cheat death every single time.
Exactly.
Right? Because then you're able to know what's coming up next. So it's like he's pretty much immortal if you think about it. Like, who could get close enough to kill him or to like do anything? Because he'll see it coming, right? Which is interesting because even though he's reading, well, okay, it's interesting because there's obviously limitations, right? We know Atreus is going there in hopes that he could get information that he could hold against Odin, or that's what he says.
Yeah.
But we don't see Heimdall really he doesn't talk about that. So there has to be some limitations.
Oh, I'm sure. Especially against other gods.
Yeah, like does he know what Odin's doing? Can he see everything that Odin will do? Because then why wouldn't you just become the Allfather yourself? Like just become the top god.
I wonder too, how everything he said to Atreus at the beginning, that he can almost manipulate people in a sense because he pretends to be, not pretends, but he is this kind of like all-knowing person who can read your body language, can read your intent, whatever it is. That almost manipulates the person to fall into that trap. So Heimdall is kind of like, he's the perfect kind of like prophecy reader because he can kind of manipulate someone into believing a prophecy, let's say, because he points them in a direction because he can read someone's like mind or body language or whatever it is. And so you can lead that person to, like, if you say Atreus is reckless, if you say it so many times, they're going to maybe start believing. And that is like the worst kind of way, especially if you're trying to prophecy hunt at this point where you're trying to like shake off prophecy. It kind of doesn't help anything. If Atreus hangs around this guy long enough, it's probably going to cause issues. But I don't know.
It's kind of like he has the art of like all knowing, but then also of persuasion through like how he just completely tells everyone. Like if you were a god and were able to see everything that's coming, would you actually let people know that you have that power to that full extent? Because I think that's a weakness as well.
Yes.
Like, when you want to really know someone's true character to see if they're lying and kind of hold that against, like, you know what I mean? Like, hold it against them in a sense.
Yeah.
It just sounded like a villain. I wouldn't hold it against them. I mean, like, you would want to know if they're lying to know if you could trust them, right?
And this fight, by the way, too, is like super annoying because we can't lay any blows on him. And for me, I was just hoping for an out because at some point it seems like a long time that you have to fight him with nothing happening.
Yeah. And he would probably just keep going as long as he's having fun with it.
Yeah, tire us out until we basically die. That's great. But well, let's see if Atreus can get out of this one. I hope so, because my fingers are numb from trying to press square all the time.
Loki, you made it. I am so honored. I see you've met Heimdall. He reads minds for me.
The boy is false, Allfather.
This young man, who is my guest, is covered in mud. Care to explain?
He means to betray you.
Is that true, Loki? You a little trickster? I'm just messing around. Of course he means to betray me, Heimdall. Why else would he come? I've given him no reason to trust me. Not yet. But he's got some very big questions. And I have so many answers to give.
So I really love this scene here because to me, it's kind of not subverting my expectations of Odin, but I know he easily manipulates people, but I love this conversation because he's so upfront. He's almost like real in a sense. And I know there's probably some, ulterior motive as to why he's talking like this, but to just say like, of course we can't trust Atreus right now. Of course we can't, like, this is a kid. Of course he's trying to betray us. Like, these are all things we probably know, especially like Atreus talks to himself. He's saying like, I'll come here, but I'm going to do it on my terms and I'm going to try to trick Odin. Like, he knows that he can't be trusted. So I think it's funny here that Odin is like, obviously Heimdall, this kid isn't just here for me. He's here for him. And I love that he puts that on the table.
Yeah. It's like, there is no secret here. And I think that's part of the things, like when you look at Kratos or you look at even like Tyr, you look at Odin, like they don't shy away from the truth, right? They don't try to have hopes in the wrong places. And that's with Odin, like he's addressing it straightforward. I think also shows how powerful he is because he's not scared of, what plan Atreus may have come up with, or because he may not even know if this may be a part of Kratos's plan to send Atreus, right? So it does make sense that he's like this, and it shows just how badass he is, and also puts trust in him from the point of view of Atreus. I think Atreus watching him say this, it makes Atreus know that he doesn't really, or feel like that he doesn't really have to hide his full intentions, and that, with Odin wanting to earn his trust, it may seem like there's hope for Atreus to get what he wants out of coming here to Asgard.
Yeah, Odin almost has like no expectations for Atreus, which maybe kind of like puts that weight off of his shoulders. But that's perfect from Odin. Like, you're gaining this kid's trust already because, Atreus is probably thinking, okay, this guy's pretty cool. He's not giving me a hard time. He believes in me already. And even though maybe I'll betray him, he still believes in me and wants to work with him. So, man, kudos, Odin. Good job in kind of already brokering the peace relatively early.
I will also say that I don't know if you got the hint of it, but there is a lot of dynamics happening between the gods here.
So many.
It is like if they had their own like reality show, I would watch it. Like you just see Heimdall like trying to please Odin at every breath he takes, trying to prove his worth. And then like you just see Odin throw Thor to the side by saying like, what are you doing here still? Like go. So it's very interesting to see how those dynamics would play out as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, especially the relationship with Odin and Thor. It seems it's a little rocky. So I definitely want to dive more into that. So I hope we get some more scenes with them. But Odin has a project for Atreus. He even gives him a room to stay in and mentions he's not a prisoner. So again, he's doing really good at trying to gain Atreus's trust. We also may meet Lady Sif, who is less than thrilled to see Atreus since, Magni and Modi were her sons and we killed them. Yikes. But it looks like she doesn't do anything about that. We also meet Thor's daughter, Thrud. I think it's funny because there's this whole scene where she pretends to want revenge on Atreus for killing Modi. She even pins him against the wall, but then laughs it off and says, relax. I think it's interesting to me. It seems like maybe Sif had a problem, but Thrud is like, I don't really care that you killed my brother. Especially their gods, they probably lived thousands of years together. I guess they, Magni and Modi weren't well liked, in my opinion, if their own sister doesn't like them.
Yeah, I guess so. But then it also just shows how, I'm just curious to what's going on in Thor's head. Because we had that fight at the beginning of the game. Obviously, he is still hurting. And we saw even a little bit of that dynamic with him and Odin, him wanting to kill Kratos, Odin saying no, not yet, don't fight or whatever. It's now he kind of has a chance to silence or get his revenge and silence Atreus and really stand for his sons. But he still seems like he's not fully on board with letting Atreus live, but I want to know, what is it? Just because it's the Allfather, or what is it that's making him abide by Odin so much? You know what I mean? Because it's Thor. He doesn't give two craps.
There's got to be some dynamic that they either have, or Odin is just so much more powerful than Thor. That's my only explanation, because we don't really see that in let's say the Marvel movies. Thor kind of goes on his own way. And Odin doesn't really stop him. But this case, it seems like, Thor really just adheres to everything that Odin says. So I'm sure we're going to find out why that's the case. I want to mention Thrud again, Cam. I'm a really big fan of her character design. I think she looks really badass. What did you think of her overall look?
I love the redhead that is Thrud.
Yeah.
And I just love how she talks. You could tell she's a kid, right? But she's also more mature than Atreus.
You can tell, yeah.
She seems like she has more of her head on her shoulders. I don't know if it was because of the loss of her brothers, even though she didn't really like them or they were annoying. I don't know. It's also very, I don't know. I just find it interesting because I knew Sif and Thor has a relationship in some tellings, but I guess it was just weird to see all the red hair.
Right. Yeah. Lots of
and
red hair.
The design of both of them. Yeah, but I really like it as well. And how you could tell she's a warrior or wanting to be a warrior through it. So I really like her design.
It's definitely better than Brooklyn Odin. That's what I call him because he looks like a character from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Once you're done in your room, you head back to Odin in his study.
I was a young god when I found it. Spent lifetimes studying it, following every clue down every dead end, looking for and finally unearthing this. See that? It shares the same mystical energy.
It opened a crack. Can we just look inside?
I wouldn't recommend that.
What's the broken mask for?
Recognize any writing on it?
These aren't from the Nine Realms. Small bear. Obsidionis Pitha. From smoldered earth and obsidian spark, and a field of battles never fought.
Are you certain? Because if that's a clue, I know what it means.
And what's that?
Keep working with me and find out. You don't have to kill anyone. You don't have to betray your father or yourself. Come on, I know you felt what I felt. The answers are in there. Let's get them. I mean, you translated this language like it was nothing.
Odin shows us a small little realm tear and a mask, something that Loki can translate but Odin can't. He believes it has the answers to all of their questions. For Odin specifically, what he was put on this earth to do. Even as a god, he doesn't know, and he wants Atreus' help in this situation. Should Atreus follow Odin into the quest? It seems like a given, but I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for Atreus.
Nothing's a good thing while he's in Asgard.
Yeah, that's true.
For Atreus, right? But I guess like when you're already in this situation, it's kind of like, okay, how are you going to make the best of the situation? So getting intel or like learning what Odin's goal is, it does kind of make sense to go along. Like, because how is he going to leave Asgard if he really wants to?
He said he could leave at any time.
Yeah, but you would have to tell Odin you're going to leave, right? Like if Atreus is trying to find information, I'm guessing he may have to sneak around or may potentially be caught at any given time. I'm pretty sure Odin wouldn't want to send him back if he finds out that he learned something he shouldn't have, right? Yep. So, I mean, yeah, following along with the quest and making it seem like you're in for the ride, it kind of makes sense now that we're in this situation. But if Atreus just listened to everyone, then he wouldn't be in this situation.
I guess it's a double-edged sword in terms of Atreus can find out information of what the heck this is. So he can kind of learn what this mask does or what exactly Odin's trying to find out. However, on the flip side, I'm really afraid that this mask is going to have some sort of ultimate power that Odin is going to get. So probably not a good thing to complete it. But who knows what Atreus is even thinking at this point, because he agrees to help Odin. And that's when Thor shows up to take him to Muspelheim to help solve the mystery of the mask and put it back together. So if you love Thor and Atreus bonding, this one's for you.
Yeah, they're going to go on a like mini bromance adventure.
Road trip?
A road trip? Yeah, a road trip. There's one thing I wanted to say about the mask.
Yeah.
Did it look familiar to you?
No. Did it look familiar to you?
Yes. If you remember when we go to Ironwood and, Atreus is having his vision and he sees a bunch of him running around.
Yes.
The mask is actually in the middle of that.
It is?
Yeah, it's floating in the center of it.
Oh my God, I had no idea. What does that mean then?
I don't know. I have no idea what it means. But when I saw it, because in that vision, I was like, oh, when he's about to go into Ironwood and he's having this like recollection of everything that he has said that was horrible, everything that he wants to forget. The mask is in the middle of that. And I was like, that kind of looks like the mask from the movie The Mask. And then as soon as I saw this mask, I was like, wait, that's the same mask. The movie mask that's in God of War.
They look very similar. You're right.
They look very similar, but I have no idea what it means. But I think what it means, this mask is going to be a huge thing in this story, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's going to have some ultimate power. So I'm kind of nervous at where this leads. But like I said, that moves us on to chapter 8, Into the Fire, where we go to Muspelheim. So let's see what that's all about. This chapter is basically just us trying to figure out where the mask wants to take us. When it glows hot, it's the right way to go. And that's basically what we're trying to do this entire chapter, go through Muspelheim. Thor kind of knocks things out of the way for us when the mask tells us to go certain ways. And then we also get to test out our combat with Thor, who also threatens Atreus, by the way, to tell us that he hasn't gotten a blood payment from Atreus yet, just Kratos. So maybe let's be on the watch here. But we get to fight as Atreus with Thor. There's a lot of fighting in this one. Cam, did you enjoy kind of teaming up with Thor here?
Oh my gosh. I loved every second of being around Thor when he fights, because he fights like he doesn't care.
Yes.
Like it's such a chore for him to fight. And like just how he throws his hammer around and like even makes it like rest on Atreus for a second. It's just like really cool to just see how he fights and like how he also doesn't want to help Atreus, but also knows he has to.
It's his dad is forcing him to do it, basically, is what's happening. So it adds this weird, kind of funny dynamic between the two. And basically Atreus is trying to get Thor to trust him throughout this entire chapter as we go, until he sees one of Groa's shrines and wants to try to distract Thor from it. So he strategically mentions that the Muspelheim trials that we did, if you remember, in God of War 2018, he basically eggs Thor on and says, hey, we did it. I bet you could do it. And it works because Thor goes to the Muspelheim trials to give it a try. And that gives Atreus some time to find out exactly what the Groa's shrine has in store. So there you go. There's the trickster god right here. He's actually tricking Thor and it's working.
Yeah. Also, like, I know I mentioned it before, like how I think Heimdall is referring to Loki like that trickster god, but you even hear Odin say it like, you little trickster, Atreus, you trickster. So it's cool that like he's actually turning into what we know Loki to be by like just these subtle nods and like his curiosity. It's funny.
Once we get Thor out of our hair, Atreus goes to open the shrine.
Angerboda?
You know, for someone who is trained as a warrior, you are tragically easy to startle.
I didn't. What are you doing here?
A girl can't visit a shrine of her own volition?
You're here for Surtur's marble.
Maybe.
You're out looking for more giant marbles? You know what this looks like, right?
Like the life story of one of our people? And also maybe a storage closet.
No. This looks an awful lot like Defying Destiny. A while back, you talked about how the giants left. You ever think about them?
All the time. They're far from here. Far from Odin and Thor. But I wonder what lands they've gone to. What seas they've crossed. Why?
I want to find them. I'm gonna save my father, and then I'll find them. It's starting. Who is that?
Not Surtur, that's for sure. Look at all that frost.
Sinmara.
Don't think I've heard of her before. And here comes Surtur.
Wow. This must have been some fight.
Yeah, until it wasn't.
They just stopped?
Oh, no. Look, it's because they fought together.
Looks like they even became friends. Good friends.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they are.
Oh, well, that's good for them.
But it
So
looks
we
like
meet
they're-
Angerboda looking for Surtur's shrine. We talk about prophecy once again. Atreus says he doesn't want to be following the prophecy, even though he's with Odin, and there's this kind of funny situation where Angerboda's like, okay, interesting. But Surtur's marble is empty, which means he's still alive, and they see a vision of the prophecy in the shrine that Surtur and Sigmar come together to bring on the power known as Ragnarok, or the powerful being, let's say. But a lot to kind of digest here, that I'm guessing at some point we're going to have to deal with Surtur and Sigmara to create Ragnarok or not create Ragnarok. Are we trying to avoid Ragnarok, Cam, or are we trying to kill Odin with Ragnarok?
I honestly don't know anymore. Because I feel like it's just this always back and forth. Like, and I don't think anyone clearly made up their mind yet. Like,
Right.
because Kratos still doesn't seem like he's for war, and obviously Tyr isn't as well. But we know from Atreus' perspective, like, he does believe he needs to fulfill this prophecy, or did, before he found out his dad was going to die.
Yeah.
But then also, see, it's very confusing. It's a complex story. And now I understand. Because, like, at the beginning, I was like, if you know something is bad, why would you try to fulfill this prophecy? Like, wouldn't you stay away from it? But then at the same time, it's like, I kind of get why he wants more information. But in doing so, he is fulfilling the prophecy. It's like a catch-22.
I love, too, he kind of, like, throws it in Angrboda's face. He's like, when she's like, yeah, sure, Loki. He's like, well, you're not fault. You already completed your prophecy, but it looks like you're still trying to do something. He's trying to, like, grasp for straws.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, probably because he has a crush on Angrboda and is just trying to, like, flirt with her in a different way, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, too, like, she was, the roles kind of has switched here, right? She was like, you can't really, you know, when we saw Reinward, she was like, you can't really avoid your prophecy. It's going to happen. And then she was obviously down because her prophecy was fulfilled. But now she's making her new story, or like extending her story further away from what the prophecy has showed because of inspiration from Atreus. But then you have Atreus here like, wait, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
Like, you're breaking the rules. But then he was also, Atreus, make up your mind. Make up your mind, kid.
Sounds like he's a teenager or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Angrboda also mentions that the snake that they put one of the marbles in, if you remember, is getting really big. Atreus says, I knew that would happen. So here, like, this is proof that it's Jormungandr, right? Like, we mentioned it before, but I don't know how this whole time travel stuff works. How, you know, Jormungandr remembered Atreus in God of War 2018, but whatever's going on, I think it's hilarious and fun and cool, but also I don't know exactly what does that mean. Is there two Jormungandrs?
Oh, yeah. There's lots more questions than answers sometimes.
Yeah, we're going to have to find out some of these. But lucky for Loki, Thor doesn't realize he was gone the entire time, which is good. There's no blood payment here, but we have to fight a bunch of more enemies. And again, this is the bulk of the mission, fighting off, just trying to find whatever is going on with the mask. And then as we further go down the path, the mask starts to glow. So a piece of the mask attaches itself back. Loki almost burns himself trying to get it. And that ends that saga as we head back to Asgard. And Thor quickly mentions he did in fact know that Atreus was trying to play him right there in Muspelheim with the challenge. But I guess he didn't mind too hard. So it doesn't seem like he gave Atreus too much of a hard time being the mischief trickster god that he is. But back in Odin's study, this is where the real ish goes down.
See, I got a little theory. I think if we can find the rest of this, we can use it to look into that without, you know, losing an eye or worse. Look at this. We make a good team. Don't we? Don't we? Make a good damn team?
Just like you and Baldur.
You both behave out there?
Thor was really great. I learned a lot from him.
You learned something from him? Really now? Okay. What did you teach the kid?
Nothing. What could I possibly teach him?
Exactly. I was wondering where that went. Actually, I had a pretty good idea. Change of heart.
I'm not really sure why I came to Asgard. But I realize now it wasn't to be a spy. I need you to know you can trust me. And if I'm gonna help you take this to the end, I need to be able to trust you.
And trust is earned. I get it. Take this, figure out the rest of it. If you're staying, that is.
You're gonna tell me what you're really looking for in there.
Translate that, and I'll tell you everything. And on that, young man, you can trust me.
All right, so a lot to unpack here, but I want to first start with the dynamic of Thor and Odin's relationship, Cam, because you kind of mentioned that earlier. And this was very key in this conversation. It seems like Odin sees Thor as a dumb enforcer, nothing more. He constantly puts him down. Thor takes a shot at Odin, talks about his relationship with Atreus is just like the one and how he treated Balder. And we all know what happened to Balder because of him following Odin. So I kind of want to get your angle here of what you saw with their relationship, because clearly there's some dynamic here that seems off.
I just want to say, I wasn't too sure if Atreus was playing Odin in this. Like, has he now become the trickster and now using Odin's tactics against him? There was a part of me that was just like, I wonder if he's trying to show he's like actually being truthful for Odin's sake to gain Odin's trust rather than actually feel that way.
This is the perfect situation, and I wrote this down, but I believe both of them are lying to each other to get each other to trust them, if that makes sense. Like, Atreus is telling Odin what he wants to hear, and Odin is doing the same to Atreus. So I think Atreus is really mature in this situation here, because he's kind of, really throwing it back at Odin in a way. It's like, you can trust me. I really want to find out what this mask is, regardless if we believe it as an audience or not. I think that's the real question, if he's telling the truth or not. But I really do think he is playing him just the way Odin is doing the same. And this is kind of like, this is a situation where they kind of maybe both need something from each other, and they're willing to kind of say whatever they need to say to do so.
Or it's a little bit of both. Like, we've seen in the past how Atreus's curiosity does lead him down a path like we didn't expect. Yeah. So I think he's also curious about the mask itself, especially with the language, and maybe he wants to know for his sake. Yeah. I mean, if we're thinking of strategy, if you have to go to war with Odin, this is pretty good. This is something important to him. So if you could figure out a way to take it, or figure out a way to find out why it's so important to him, it makes sense, because that may give Atreus and everyone he cares about an advantage.
Yeah, I think maybe he's thinking that this mask holds some sort of answer, because as much as he wants answers from Odin, I think he wants just general answers of, what does all this prophecy mean and whatnot. And I think maybe that answer he thinks comes from the mask. So not necessarily, maybe he just wants it for himself. So maybe that's the reason. But like the question I asked you before this is that dynamic between Odin and Thor. What did you take out of that conversation where they were taking shots at each other, basically?
I want to see their reality show. Make it happen. Make it happen. Yeah, I mean, obviously here you could tell that Odin does not care about Thor at all. And I have to remind myself that Odin's his father. Yeah. Thor's father. Just because of how this relationship and how this dynamic is, it seems like he cares more about Atreus than anything else, even his own family. So I could only imagine what that means for everyone else that's here in Asgard, all the other gods, for his grandkids. Like, does Odin care at all? Like, he does have a kindness to him. He's charismatic towards Atreus, but I don't know if that necessarily reflects to the people closest to him. Like, you see everyone else in Asgard, his followers, the other people outside of his family really look up to Odin. But his family does not at all.
Well, that goes down to how he treats them. And again, we see it here. It seems like he's constantly putting down Thor. And again, Thor just seems like he's the muscle. That's all he is. And Odin constantly is putting him in his place. So whatever dynamic they have, Thor might be a strong god, but it seems like Odin has shackles on him, basically, in terms of like controlling Thor and everything that he does. Because it seems like, again, Thor's a strong god. Why does he adhere to Odin at all times? And he, goes on this journey with Atreus. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I hope we find out in the future exactly what's going on between the two. We also find out that Odin lost an eye examining the realm tear. That's kind of like the hint that he gave as well, because I always wanted to know how Odin lost his eye. And throughout Norse mythology, we always see that Odin does not have that eye. So it's funny to see that this is the reason why he does.
It's kind of like, like Icarus, or like even Pandora's box. Like, you seek the unknowing, and then you have that repercussion from it. Even though he is the All-Father and we think him to be all-knowing, there is obviously things out there that he doesn't know, and he's led, I don't know if I would say astray, but his own need to be all-knowing, I think it led him down the wrong path and obviously took his eye. But he hasn't learned that lesson. And if that sounds familiar, that kind of sounds like Atreus.
Ooh, it does. He doesn't want to follow in the footsteps of Odin. That's probably going to cause some real harm. But this is why this mask, I think, is such a bad idea. And this is such a bad idea is why Atreus should kind of help Odin here. Because to me, I think this mask, whatever it does, or if this realm door opens, that it's going to give Odin infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite strength, whatever it is, and that would be the downfall of everybody. So I'm really prepared in my mind that Odin is going to kick everybody's ass if he finds out what is in this realm tear.
Like he'll give him just super god powers.
And then that's the end of Kratos and Atreus and Freya.
Or if Atreus gets the powers, then he could finally do away with Odin.
Well, that's something we're going to have to find out as we play this game. And that's it for Chapter 8. As we head back to our room in Asgard, talk to Thrud some more. And that's it for the chapters in this episode. After the break, let's discuss the Allfather, Asgard, and more on AutoSave. Welcome back to AutoSave, and it seems like, Cam, every game that we play, we end up talking about trust, which to me is hilarious because we always talk about who we can't trust, who we can trust. If we can't trust this character, it seems never ending, all about trust. But in this case, in this sense of this episode, trust is being used in a different way. It's not necessarily of can we trust these people. We know we can't trust Odin. And Atreus, we don't even know exactly what the extent of his trust is. But the whole point here is that both of them, I think, are using trust to their advantage. And it means that we can't trust any goddamn buddy.
Trust in these chapters is just about how you could use trust as a tool for manipulation.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, we're entering like a really interesting time in the game because it's like, partly, even though like the whole crew, Kratos and everyone else back at Sindri's isn't in like wartime mentality, because of the situation that Atreus is put in, he is thinking like this is chess pieces. You know, I got to start manipulating. We are at war. He is so close. He is literally in enemy territory that he can't really slip up. So I think it's the smartest thing to do to manipulate the innocence that some people, gods, may see in a child, the naiveness in a child, and use that to gain the trust of your enemy. Right on, Atreus.
Yeah, it's great. Honestly, again, we don't necessarily know what Atreus's motives are completely. We think, of course, it has to do with helping his father. I think that's the most important thing that we've learned so far. He really wants his father to stay alive. And I think he's going to do anything that he can to make that happen. So again, I think he's growing up a lot. I also wanted to mention I don't know if the term normal or how normal Asgard looks in general, but we kind of have this theme throughout this episode because I want to get your initial thoughts on Asgard, but how normal it looks. How it's not luxurious. Heimdall even says, do you think the Allfather needs to puff himself up like a mortal chieftain? His kind of residence is pretty low key as well. And then we also have this whole thing of, you know, Odin is a god, but he doesn't really know what his purpose is. And it's the same thing of us almost like humans is like, why was he put on this earth? He has all these powers, but he still doesn't know, and he wants to know, and he looks at this mask as something to tell him. It's just everything to me seems very realistic, and I like this aspect. It's not godly. It's not, you know, these gods have superpowers and they know everything and they know the universe or whatever, Odin is still very much still a small being in this iteration, and I kind of love that aspect of it.
Exactly. Gods are just normal people like you and I, who not from Canada but from New York, and they're just walking here. They're just walking in Asgard. Yeah. That was not bad.
I love it.
Impression. Thank you. But no, I do like this take on it, because when I look to something, when we saw the Temple of Light, I was like, okay, like this is what I would imagine Asgard to be as well. Like just so like everything is gold or shiny and it's just all prim and proper. And when we got here, especially when we saw like the hut that Odin was in when we first arrived there, or what I thought he was in, like that first hut that we go to, I was like, oh, okay, this is like really, it feels like you're just on like in a normal human. It doesn't even feel like any of the other realms we've been to because of how like basic in a sense it seems. And it was a really cool choice to do this, because in all the other gods we have seen up until this point, like when we visited all these different realms, they seem out of this world, otherworldly. But it also is playing on, I think, us as the player, seeing how relatable Odin and Asgard is, may also warm us up to their goals and to their storylines, because right now they've been made out to be the villains, right? At this point, we've only seen them in a negative light, including Thor, even though, yes, we killed his son. Yes, it sucks. We still wanted to fight him at the beginning of the game and still fight for our lives, because yes, we needed to survive, but also it wasn't the same as how we saw with Freya, right? Where Kratos was like ready to die because he took the kid of someone else. It was just like enemy times, right? But now, because we're seeing Thor, how Thor is treated amongst the other gods by his own father, I do kind of feel for him. I feel for his loss, like hearing Lady Sif and like her talking in her talks with Thor. It makes me see that there is still loss. Like Sif is still hurting from the loss of her sons, and she's not able to get over it. We would have never got this perspective if Atreus wasn't here, and I probably wouldn't have taken it as seriously if they didn't seem so relatable. So I think this was a really good choice to do, because the game, in a sense, is just manipulating us as a player to empathize with these characters a little bit more.
It sent me into a spiral, which I still haven't gotten over. And also I think about quite a bit now, which is, it just made me think, it's like, well, okay, if there were these gods on our earth at some point, where all these myths come from, maybe they were like this. Like it was just, they had powers, but they were also just like realistic in a sense, and they weren't so like crazy godly like we see in movies and stuff like that. So it put me down this wormhole of starting to think that gods could be real. And I don't think that's good.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of stories are inspired, a lot of these stories, these myths, Norse mythology is just like based off of regular stories too, right? That elders would tell, and then it passes generations. So I do like how it humanizes these beings that have so much power at the tip of their fingers.
I think that's the perfect way to end off the episode. A quick little couple notes that we learned in these chapters: that there is a new Valkyrie queen, Gná, who has taken over the Valkyries, which is probably important to note. And then also Odin gifted us a sword, Ingrid, who is a sentient sword, and also tells Atreus a bunch of things, which I think is funny. But other than that, with chapter 7 and 8, Cam, before we leave, is there anything else you want to add?
I'm a huge Ingrid fan. Ingrid has so much personality. It's like Ingrid is the magic carpet of God of War Ragnarok. And I love every bit of it.
So do I. That makes me think, the magic carpet. That is the perfect analogy. We didn't really talk about Ingrid that much in this episode. I know it's been a long episode. We've talked a lot, but it's cool to see Atreus have a new weapon that he can use. And we don't really have to do anything with it. We just have to press square. And Ingrid does the rest, which I love.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll learn more about Ingrid in the next episode. But until then, we'll see if we got to play more with Atreus. What's going on with him? What's happening with Kratos? What's going on with Freya? What's going on with Odin? What's behind the realm tear? What's in the mask? What's going on with Thor? Why is he always fighting with Odin? There's so many questions. And maybe we won't even get all the answers. But next time on AutoSave, we're going to dive in more and try to answer as much as we can. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time.
AutoSave is produced and hosted by Camille Salazar-Hadaway and myself, Nick Andrade. The show is also produced by Dylan Wilson. Gameplay and additional elements provided by Chris Seitzer. Technical production by Greg Fillion. Executive producer, Clayton Hansler. You can follow the show at AutoSave Podcast on Twitter and AutoSave Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. You can subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it right now, and if it happens to be Apple Podcasts, kindly leave us a rating and review, but only if it's good. AutoSave is a Soda original, hosted on the Soda Podcast Network.